Welcome to the No Guilt Fangirls Podcast, where liking what you like is never a bad thing. Here's your host and head fangirl in charge, Patty Holiday.
Hey y'all, I'm your host and head fangirl in charge, Patty Holiday. Welcome to the No Guilt Fangirls Podcast. And as promised, if you happen to listen to this Spider-Man episode that we dropped last week, we talked about Spider-Man No Way Home, and it's a long one, but I mean, this movie deserved every single second that we could put into that episode. This one is, we said that we talk about Hawkeye. We never got around to making a plan to talk about Hawkeye. I think it was always something we were all interested in doing, but life came at us fast this fall and nobody had really had time for it. We got a little bit of time now, so we're going to go ahead and jump in and basically cover the entire Hawkeye series and just talk about, now that the finale's out, and how we felt about it and all of that good stuff. We're going to give you our impressions, give you some talking points. Ashley's going to pull out her handy dandy Easter eggs because she found them. And I'll also link all of those blog posts that she has done for you if you want to get really nerdy and deep dive, or just go back and see what you can find. I also want to give you guys a note based on this whole, who has time for what now. This is probably not going to get really deeply edited. So please bear with us if there's any major issues. The ladies have promised to mute themselves if they have to cough, sneeze, whatever. We're all kind of fighting colds right now. And it is a cold. I tested. It's not COVID because I am that paranoid of a person. My nose has been running for a week and a half now. And I'm like, wait, could that be? I mean, it could be, but it's not. So yay me. Anywho, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're going to go into. Spoilers. Obviously, we are talking about everything Hawkeye, but also keep in mind that we may bring up something about Spider-Man, or there could be something about other MCU projects in this episode that may have tied back or might have had some other moments. So I just want to throw that out there as a heads up. If you're not ready for that or you're concerned about it, then go ahead and skip this one. Or I will try to remember when I actually put this out in the show notes. I will mention, if we talk about Spider-Man and What If and Shang-Chi, I'll try to make notes just of anything that I feel like could be a really detrimental spoiler. So if you want to peep over there and just pull that up and read it real quick. I don't want to spoil anything for people. Well, I don't mind being spoiled. I know I'm the weirdo and everybody else in this world does. So I respect that. Okay. We have Ashely, we have Julia. If you've listened to any of these episodes over the past year, they are kind of my de facto co-hosts. I think every fangirl episode that I did in 2021 had one or both of these ladies on it. Yay. Look at that, guys. Did you know that you were co-hosts?
Love it.
Welcome to the podcast. All right. Am I leading? That was me. Did you guys hear that? I think that was me. Anyway, did any of you guys have questions, anything I should add on as far as spoilers or whatnot before we start jumping in? Any additional thoughts?
I think you covered it.
Yep, I think you covered it.
All right. So if you were listening, you feel prepared to get into the Hawkeye-ness of all things right now. All right. Ashely, introduce yourself. Julia, introduce yourself. And then let's get going.
Hey friends, I'm Ashely Saunders, and I write at my site at withashleyandco.com. I write for CBR.com, and you can always find me on Twitter at @AshelyAaron, talking all types of nerdy things, but especially Marvel. Although, tomorrow, Book of Boba Fett, so I'll probably be switching over to my Star Wars gears. And yeah, I also co-host a podcast, The Geek Girls Universe, so come get geeky with me.
Oh, Star Wars is going to happen. This 2021 was the year of Marvel, and 2022, are we going to be year of Star Wars? I don't know, but Book of Boba Fett.
Depends on release dates.
Right.
Bring it on.
I am excited, though, about Book of Boba Fett. I know that this is one in the Star Wars fandom. Boba Fett was somebody that people had just been waiting for this, like long rumored movies and whatnot kept getting canceled and changed and whatever. And so when he showed up in the spoilers. When he showed up in the Mandalorian, I mean, it's been a year, so
it's been a year. If you haven't seen it by now,
come on, the spoiler warning date has passed on that one.
I definitely believe in that. So, but yeah, I mean, when he showed up last year, everyone lost their minds, and I was like, oh yeah, they've got to finally give us that Boba Fett, whatever. So I'm excited. I was never like, I didn't care about Boba Fett. Like, he was fine. Like, I didn't have any feelings one way or the other. However, how it tied in with the Mandalorian obviously was very cool. And, you know, my girl Ming-Na and I love her so much. I will watch anything she ever does from here until the end of eternity, because Ming-Na is just such a badass.
It really is.
I mean, really, right? Okay. Oh, and like, she's the only one that's like, she's Disney princess, Star Wars, Marvel. Like, she's just covered everything, and she's been phenomenal in all of it. So there's your little minor fangirling of the day with one of my faves. Okay. So Ashely, cool. Julia?
Hey guys, I'm Julia. Not as cool as Ashely. I don't write a blog. I just am a very big fangirl, and
you have a great Instagram. Your stories are the best.
Thank you. I am the self-proclaimed #1 Tom Hiddleston / Loki stan, because yes, we love all things Loki. We love all things TWH on this side of the world. So yeah, you can find me at Queenie11078 on Instagram. A lot of fun things that happen in stories over there. So just excited to be back to talk about Hawkeye, a show that, I will be honest, was not super like woo about. You know what I mean? Like, I watched the series and was like, okay. And then the finale happened, and I was like, oh my God, I love this show. This is the best show ever. Oh my God.
Listen, I think if we're going to be like straight up and honest here, what did we get? We got 4 or 5 series from Marvel this year. I can't even count them all anymore, but we got 5. We got 5. Okay. So Wanda, Loki, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, What If, and then Hawkeye. And out of those 5, when they first announced, Hawkeye was probably my like, you know, and I feel, I mean, the joke is like that he's the worst Avenger or the most boring Avenger or whatever, you know, however you want to term it. Nobody was into Hawk. I don't want to say nobody, because there certainly are fangirls out there.
Amy Albers would
like a word. I'm aware. Our friend Amy, absolutely. Hawkeye has been her man since day one. So this was right up her alley. But anyway, for the most part, he just has kind of like flown under the radar as far as, you know, how people felt one way or the other about him. He just, you know, he was fine, right? And he was Hawkeye. I also have to admit that I kind of felt the same way about Wanda when they first said that she was getting her own show. Again, nothing against them. I just, you know, wasn't particularly excited about it. And then, obviously, as anybody that's listened to us knows, like, Wanda is the moment that everything.
Call back to something you have always said, Patty. In Marvel, we trust.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
In Feige, we trust.
That's right.
You know, we just have to.
Well, and they continue to, like, above and beyond me. Like, I expected, and I did. I expected the Wanda whatever series. I was like, you know what? I know it's going to be fine. I still cannot get over what they did with that show.
I'm still needing therapy from one
Correct.
My God, the finale, it's like ugly cried. I was like, why?
Yes. Well, and on that note, like, I felt the same way about Hawkeye, right? Yes. It was going to be fine. And then from the first 2 episodes, it was such a ride. It was so enjoyable. It was so fun. It was so much needed, I think, also at that point in time of everything that's happening as I'm waving my arms around in this world. Hawkeye just like fit perfectly into this place that I needed as far as entertainment was concerned. So I love Hawkeye. I enjoyed every single episode. I'm not gonna be those annoying people who are like, rank these shows from one to, which one did you like the best, whatever. I will just say, I will watch Hawkeye again and again. I will watch Wanda. Maybe. I don't know if my heart can take Wanda again.
I can't do that one again.
I don't know.
I'd have to
watch
skip
Loki
some
all the
parts.
time.
Yeah. I mean, Wanda was intense. It was intense. I can watch Loki again and again. I can watch Captain America and Captain America and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I can watch that again and again. Like, I enjoyed all of them. The only one, and we talked about this before, and I still haven't gotten there yet, but it's on my list.
Shame.
Especially, you'll love this. You will love this. Here's a spoiler from Spider-Man. And actually, it's not really a spoiler from Spider-Man so much as it's in the trailer now that's out everywhere. So I really don't feel bad about talking about this. But this is from Doctor Strange, the madness. I'm drawing a blank on the Multiverse of Madness. There we go. Multiverse of Madness. The trailer that's out, right? That was also the stinger at the end of the movie. That in that trailer that was out, there is who is he called? The Dark Doctor Strange, or
I don't know if they've named him, but people have called him Dark Doctor Strange.
Okay,
Evil Doctor Strange, Doctor Strange Supreme.
Okay, my husband comes home last night. He and the kids finally went and got to see Spider-Man. And my kids are like, Dad's a conspiracy theorist. He's got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And I was like, what is he, what is he? He was like, there was something off about that Doctor Strange. Did you see at the end at that trailer with that, weird Doctor Strange? And I just started laughing. I was like, I've already been told we missed out. We have to go back and watch What If. And he was like, oh, really? And I was like, yep. He was like, I said, it will all be revealed when we watch the rest of What If. And he was like, oh, okay. Well, I was thinking it was, and I was like, I know what you were thinking, and that's not Mephisto.
No.
Well, and I will say, I did follow Ashley's advice and did my homework and started watching Daredevil, and I'm obsessed.
See, Patty, you must follow my advice.
Oh, no, you're not wrong. Like, I mean, in Marvel, I trust. In Ashley, I trust. She's not steering us wrong, right? So, a very important PSA. There's a lot of things to watch when it comes to Marvel, but we're throwing in What If, and we're throwing in Daredevil. If you happen to skip either one of those once upon a time, definitely pick them back up. So Julia, you're overall, you were just like okay with Hawkeye until the end?
Yeah, I found Kate Bishop's character really annoying. The first few episodes. Like, I felt like, and so in talking to, and Ashley, jump in and tell me if I was misguided on this, right? Because I don't read the comic books. I rely on you heavily to provide the context for those. But one of my coworkers was like, yeah, in the comics, like, that's her character. She's just annoying. She's an annoying kid, essentially. And so that kind of turned me off. I've always liked Clint or Hawkeye because I feel like he always gets the best zingers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he always has the funniest one-liners. And
he absolutely has got someone writing some really great points for him. Yes,
and his
absolutely.
timing is so good, and his story with Natasha, and just I've always been not like super fan of Hawkeye, but I have a soft spot for him. So yeah, I wasn't like, we'd watch it every week, and Steve and I would say, I don't know if I want to keep watching it, and then we'd watch it again, and I don't know if I want to keep watching it, but what we would, because I'm like, well, I have to know how it ends. I have to know what happens.
Right.
And then the finale happened and tied it all together and gave us some wonderful, delightful things. And I was like, oh my God, that was one of the better shows. And it would make me really mad because I'd go on Twitter and they'd be like, oh, Hawkeye's the best show. It's the best one they've come out with this year. I'm like, I don't know about that, y'all.
Well, I don't think anybody would have been better than Loki for you. So that, he was up against some stiff competition in that sense. But I will say I felt like Hawkeye was one of the most, I don't know, relatable, or like if you weren't into Marvel Comics a whole lot, this was the one that you could watch and kind of get into the MCU because it was it was a very simple premise and it was easy to understand. There wasn't too much weird going on. There was enough weird that we've got some new characters who are going to have spinoff. And we knew that was going on. And there was at the end, we finally got a zinger of some sort, which we can talk about in a little bit. That we don't know what that means or if that will be addressed, developed and addressed further later, or what was all that about. And I'm referring to Hawkeye's wife, and what happened there. Yeah. So we'll see. But I felt like this one again was like the most relatable. Plus it was again dropping at the right time. It was dropping right during, Thanksgiving, during Christmas. We were all in that seasonal, festive mood. And I did love throughout this movie how they, would tie in some Christmas references without being constantly in your face. Like, it's Christmas, it's Christmas, it's Christmas. Like, I thought they did just enough to officially, we can say Hawkeye is a Christmas show. Yes. However, it wasn't so, it wasn't preachy or anything like that. What appealed to me the most was watching and remembering through this vehicle just how much of a dad Hawkeye is. And even before we knew that he had kids, right? He did some dad-like things. Yep. And that just, as, a parent, that made my little heart get excited. And I was like, oh, he's out there saving the world and doing all these crazy things, but he's also, he's a dad and he loves his kids fiercely and absolutely a great husband, which, by the way, can we give Laura Barton like wife of the year, wife of the century? Like, she is totally just go with the flow. Like, she's great. She was great. She was like, I know you're not going to make it. It's fine. Like, we got this. It's fine. And I was like, you're not mad even a little bit that they're going to be disappointed? Nope, she wasn't. She was just like, you got to do what you got to do. Go do it. So, I dug it. I liked Hawkeye. It was definitely entertaining. My only thing that I think I differ from both of you is the finale. I don't know. It didn't do what I wanted, but I think it's because I had in my head, I wanted to be left on a major cliffhanger, and I wanted to get that, end slate that says season 2 of Hawkeye is coming. And they did not give that to us. Now, are they fools for not having a season 2? I think so. I think we definitely need a season 2 of Hawkeye. However, they're not ready to announce it yet, or maybe they haven't been able to lock down contracts, or maybe they're just not going to do it. I don't know what the answer is, but I was disappointed in that. And I think that probably led to my overall disappointment of the finale. Is for some weird reason, I was like, oh, okay. But
to be fair, I think it's a lot of that. Like, they haven't nailed it down officially, but Marvel's official account also called it the season finale and not the series finale. Not the
series finale. Right. Exactly.
So I think the plan is to make another season. And I mean, honestly, in the comics, Hawkeye is her mentor, which is what they've set up in this show. So I think that would be the season 2. Mm-hmm. Him teaching her how to be Hawkeye and to take his place.
Yep.
So, and that they kind of teased that right at the end of this episode of the finale. So there's little, there's baby cliffhangers, not like massive ones.
Yeah. And trust me, I actually really love when things get wrapped up. So I also liked, for the most part, things kind of got wrapped up. So anyway, it just that was my only negative, but I think it was just because I had in my head and my heart so much. Oh, and I wanted Daredevil to show up. He didn't show up, I wanted even Spider-Man to have shown up would have been amazing, just because the tree and everything was like right there for us. The Rockefeller Center tree was right there. And that didn't happen either. Trust me, they gave us plenty of other great stuff. So it's like teeny tiny minor complaints. But I will say that my first impression of the finale was more like, I don't want to say disappointment, just, oh, okay. Well, that was good. I really liked that, instead of like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. I didn't. So favorite moments. Oh, Ashely, I didn't ask you. What's your overall impression?
So kind of like you guys, Hawkeye wasn't my most anticipated show out of all the ones announced. And WandaVision really wasn't either, only because I was like, what exactly are they doing with that show? And then that one just blew
and they
my
made
mind.
it. Yeah. From the get-go, though, they said this is going to be unlike anything
weird.
anybody's ever seen. And it was. Yeah.
So good. So, yeah. So I'm also not a Clint Barton hater. I know everyone, like, it's like a personality trait to hate Hawkeye and hate Clint Barton. But I don't have that trait. I actually like him. I like him because he's the most realistic hero, right? Like, out of all of them, he's really just a guy that happens to be in shape, and he's incredible with his bow and arrow.
Like, yeah.
He's bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
None of this makes sense. Exactly.
He's not a god. Like, exactly. Like in Age of Ultron, when his self-loathing like really comes out, where he's like, it doesn't make sense. I've got a bow and arrow. We're fighting robots, whatever. Like, let's just make it work. And when you step out that door, you're an Avenger. And
don't correct me if I'm wrong, but so far in the MCU, I'm sure comic book Clint has some different backstory, but so far in the MCU, we don't have any info on him other than being a SHIELD agent or part of SHIELD, or he recruited Natasha, yada, yada, yada. But we don't know like how Clint became Clint. Like I read on Ashley's blog, because let's be honest, that's the extent of my reading knowledge, that you mentioned some history of him in the comics, like with losing his hearing, and that he's actually deaf in the comics, and then he gets his hearing back because comics. I think that's your exact line. And so I know that like there are backstories out there, whatever. But in the MCU, we haven't seen that yet. All we know is the basics is that he's had this long career, over 20 years of being this badass guy who's, out there doing things for his country and saving the world, right? And so I'm not wrong there. Like I haven't missed any, moment of him having a conversation. Just want to make sure, like, yes, to the best of our knowledge, that's literally all Clint was some guy who had this amazing talent and has learned to put it to good use.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes him, when we interviewed Kevin Feige for Hawkeye, he was talking about the series and how, we had chaos magic and we had the multiverse and we had geopolitical landscape. What If was obviously a whole nother beast, but then here you have Hawkeye, and it's a very grounded series because he's a grounded character. And I do love how in the finale, Kate points out, she's like, look, you jumped off of a building and you couldn't fly. And that was amazing to me watching you as a little girl. Like, you're a real hero because you have nothing to protect you. You're not Steve Rogers. You're not Iron Man. You're not Thor. You're just a dude with a bow, a string and some arrows. And I'm glad that he finally got this series to kind of show off to all the haters who love to hate on him that he's important too. And yeah, he's totally the dad. Like Natasha's the mom. He's the dad of the Avengers. And that was the other thing, this is what I love about Marvel. And we've talked about this before, the little like the plan and how they have planned out everything so meticulously. Literally that moment in Age of Ultron with Wanda where he was encouraging her, that was the seed to bring to fruition here in this Hawkeye series so many years later. And I was just like, oh my God, I love it. Mind blown. I just love how they plan this stuff. And so you're not like, oh, this came out of left field. Hawkeye's not a mentor. He's not a dad. He's been the dad and the mentor the whole time.
All the time. The whole time. Yep. Agreed.
So I was happy with the series. I want to see more. Kate is annoying in the comics. She is that teenage girl or younger girl who's just like, oh my God, but like I can do this and I can do that. And I'm the greatest, archer in the world. It's like, who told you that? Yourself? You're not.
I liked her. She didn't annoy me. She didn't annoy
me either.
But I think that also goes along with like where I am in my life. I am surrounded by teenagers who are just like that. I mean, they're not, the greatest archers in the world, but they definitely think they're the greatest everything. And so I recognized that in her and was like,
I think she was perfectly, like Haley nailed it. She was perfect as Kate, just perfect. Oh my god, and her and Yelena together. Oh, I love it. I need more of that.
Yelena series.
We will get there because that definitely deserves like a whole conversation. Okay, so quickly in episodes 1 and 2, do you have any key things, key Easter eggs, key moments, anything that you want to throw out for discussion that we should be pointing out to people who maybe just aren't as familiar with it or weren't sure what they were watching or weren't, did the whole Patty thing, which is, I know that's probably important. I don't know why it's important, but maybe they'll explain it to me later or Ashely will anyway. Was there anything that you can call back to in the first couple of episodes?
So episode 1 was when we got, I love the opening of episode 1 because it was the flashback to 2012 Avengers but from Kate's perspective. And I know people want to give them crap for how the Stark Tower wasn't damaged exactly right. But that building that Kate lives in is in the original Avengers. I was watching it on the airplane and I was like, oh, there it is. There's her building. So
that's wild.
I was like, I love it. I don't know if there's anything that like super, super stuck out. I do like the whole hearing aid and how they kind of brought that aspect of Clint's comic history into it and how they explain it, I think in episode 2, why he doesn't have his hearing.
Yeah. And I appreciated that too, because it was reality. I mean, if you are somebody, again, not a super soldier, not, a god, not anything special, no offense, Clint Barton, but you're a 40 something, early 50 something dad, that would be reality, is you would absolutely be losing your hearing with all of the things that you're doing. And so I appreciated that, just from that perspective. And I had no backstory I didn't know where we were going with Echo. I didn't know anything about her. So I didn't know that was also going to kind of tie in together here. And I wasn't aware of Clint's comic book background where he was deaf at some point. So this was a pleasant surprise just from that very basic as a casual fan girl watching this go, oh, that's realistic and I love it. Like I'm down with that. Like he does plenty of other amazing things, so give him a little bit of reality to deal with. And that was something that as an adult he's having to learn to overcome and to work through the loss of his hearing. And the moment that got me, like punched me in the gut, was when he's on the phone with his son.
Oh my gosh.
He doesn't have his hearing aid. And so Kate is hearing it all as, she's standing there, she's writing, furiously telling him basically what his son is saying. Because think about that. I mean, that's something that, in this day and age, and he even said, hey buddy, is there any chance you could text me? And anyway, it was just very heartbreaking and sweet at the same time. But I loved that again, like a little bit of dose of reality going on with our superheroes. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I liked it.
No, I agree.
The other big, episode 1, the levity that we need, Rogers the Musical.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Rogers the Musical was, I was screaming the entire time laughing.
I just got that song out of my head. Now you put back in there. I'm already like, oh, don't sing it.
Yes, let me tell you, between I can do this all day and we don't talk about Bruno. Switching to Encanto. Those are the two like theme tracks that are going on in my head nonstop all day, every day. And it just flips off between the two of them because there's some bops, man. I loved that they did it. I loved that they committed to it. I loved that it was ridiculous and that Ant-Man was was there.
You know who wasn't there? That guy.
I loved all of it. And so, yes, we have to talk about Rogers the Musical. They also brought it back for our finale end credit scenes. We got the entire song.
Baby.
Yeah, we got the entire song.
Please.
Oh, man.
And I'm going to repeat this. I know I mentioned it maybe on Twitter, but there's a discussion about it. Look, I think this show that Disney is just stupid if they do not figure out a way to get like 3 or 4 songs out of this idea, put it together, and do a 20-30 minute show at the Hyperion Theater in Disney California Adventure. Because
I'm with you.
Julia, I don't think have you been out to Avengers Campus yet?
Not yet, but
okay,
in February.
Okay. I was like, I don't think you've been out there yet, but Ashely and I both have. And the way it's set up, it honestly, it just makes sense. It's like it's right there. And have the, why not turn that into, have this.
Else, right? Like they had the different Lokis showing up every week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I love it. Oh my God. Girl, you're going to have a whole moment like I did. I was just like standing there like, oh my God, this is home.
Yeah. They've really tied in like all of these shows. Kate Bishop started meeting and greeting. Hawkeye's been around for a long time at DCA, but Kate Bishop and Hawkeye were together. I don't know if they're still out there currently at this time, but they were, during the run of the show. And it just would make so much sense and would be so hilarious and be so cheesy and so fun. Like it would be, well, Disney World has kite tails where we go and just like die laughing over these kites that just crash into the seats. I need that kind of levity and joy of ridiculousness.
We really
in this Broadway theater musical, whatever, happening at the Hyperion. Like that's what I need.
It needs to be like, the busted Avengers doing the show too.
Oh,
right? Like,
totally.
So the Universal Avengers?
Yes. Yes, because the Broadway, when they showed it at the end and on the finale, I was laughing so hard at how awful.
Oh no, it is. No, the costuming is purposely awful. Like all of it is just cheesy, and it would be. I mean, I just have these dreams of like going and watching that show and then walking out. And when you're at Avengers Campus, the characters spend a lot of time walking across this upper level, and a lot of people down below like yell up at them and have conversations, whatever. And I'm just like, I need people to like harass them about the show that's happening down the street and ask them if they've gone to see it yet and what they thought about it and all of that. It's just so great. But so that's my vote. I know Marvel is listening. I know Disney is listening. And
obviously.
If you guys, and truthfully, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. They may have thought about this from the moment that they conceived the idea of having this Broadway show on Hawkeye. They might have also said, and then we'll put it in. I mean, this may already be like, a planned thing, right? And so it's not like I'm going to get credit for it. But if they don't do it, I will be so disappointed because they should.
Yeah, because now it's made 2 appearances, right? It's made an appearance in Hawkeye and it's made an appearance in Spider-Man.
Yep. It's a thing. Like, let's lean into this. It is totally a thing.
We deserve.
Absolutely. I want a playbill. I want to walk through and I want to pick up a playbill for this. So
yes.
So, or pay for one because it's Disney, so they'll probably charge.
Yeah, I'll pay for it. It's fine. Just give it to me.
Rogers the Musical was great. Episode 1. We asked for it. They gave it to us. It was fabulous.
So I guess you said like the thing that I got excited about, it was definitely the watch, which we did get a little bit, some pieces of it throughout the rest of the series. And then the finale was when we got the big reveal as to who the watch belongs to.
And who does the watch belong to? And what does it mean? Go ahead and tell us.
It belongs to Laura. And so the thing is, in the comics, Hawkeye's ex-wife was Mockingbird. She wasn't named Laura Barton, but she was Mockingbird. We have seen a Mockingbird already in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which this is where the argument hit online. Is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. canon, yes or no? It's a no. Like, they've said it's not. Like, it's made by Marvel, but it's not Marvel Studios. And yes, at one point, it kind of flowed, but then it didn't. So you gotta let it go. As far as canon, you can enjoy the show, but it doesn't fit within the timeline. But anyways, so there was a Mockingbird on the show, and she was Agent 19, Bobby Morse. So the back of this watch had the SHIELD logo, and it had the number 19.
Oh, wait a minute. So in the show, was she called Mockingbird? Did I miss that? I mean, it's been a long time since I saw, especially anything with Bobby in it, because she was gone, for a long time. But I just don't remember that terminology happening in the show.
Okay, so I will fully admit that I never finished Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I love these shows because these shows follow my movies and they fit nicely within the plan.
Right. It was,
So Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not my thing.
Yeah, no, it was definitely different the way they chose to treat this one. So yeah, no, I get that. But interesting. I'll have to go see, because I just don't remember Bobby definitely not having that tie-in, because but that also may have been a choice that they were making at the time to not tie her into Clint, right? So
right. So it says 19. It confirms that Laura probably used to be Mockingbird, right? And then she retired from it when they decided to start a family. And honestly, it makes sense. I know some people thought it came out of left field, but kind of like Clint being a dad. He's been a father figure for a while. Laura, as you were saying, she gets wife of the year, right? She literally goes with the flow. But it explains why she's so understanding of him, constantly in and out, disappearing, fighting the world.
Yeah, she gets
Thanos.
it. Yeah.
It's because she used to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I also read somewhere too, and I went back and watched it yesterday on Age of Ultron, when they first go to Clint's farmhouse, and they walk in, and Stark takes a look at Laura and says, she's an agent. Or says something about Laura being an agent. And it's a really line that he says.
He does. He also calls the kids agents, too. Yeah. My husband was like, he said she's an agent. I was like, well, he also said the kids are agents. I don't know.
Well, they might be. You don't know.
Might be. You never know. They're just playing dumb.
Yeah, so I guess the big reveal of episode 1 was the watch, which, it did turn into something. It wasn't Mephisto. Yay.
Okay. All right. Episode 2, anything stand out offhand?
Episode 2 was great because this is where we get our first Kate Clint, real interactions, which I loved. I loved how she's like, oh, we're going to pick up supplies, do some scouting. And he's like, yeah, no, we're getting Advil and some Band-Aids. That cracked me up, honestly. And then him duct taping the mixed drink frozen packs onto his joints. I was like, oh yeah, relatable.
I mean, literally from the things
superheroes, they're just like us.
They're just like basically. Us. Yeah.
As crazy as Rogers the Musical was and how hilarious it was, I think the LARPer scene in this episode might have been funnier, only because when they would zoom out and you'd hear the da-da, the really dramatic medieval music, and then you'd zoom back into Clint. He's just like, oh my god, smack. What? Give me my suit.
Yes, how I howled when I realized he was going to have to be a LARPer. I thought that was the funniest thing, and then I gave him credit for not mocking them and not being a jerk about it, and just being all right, I'm here for a purpose. I'll play along. I'm not even going to tell y'all how stupid and ridiculous this is. I'll just do it. But I did laugh, what's your name? What's your email? Classified. It was just
It was so good.
It was great. It was great.
Sequence. I could have used another LARPer sequence. We got more Rogers Musical. I could have used more LARPing.
Well, we got
LARPing specifically.
Well, I was going to say we got a little, and we got a promise of LARPing. That's how they got their costumes, because they were they did get the LARPers to buy in and make them costumes. But we also got a little bit at the end. The LARPers showed up to kind of help save the day, and so they also made me laugh how they were
unintentionally.
Yes,
the best.
And that they went and they changed their clothes, into their LARPing everything.
I loved it.
even though like two of them were cops and one of them was a fireman, it's not like, they were just like total civilians, right? But they were like, we need our costumes to this. People aren't listening to us.
All right, we're all extra here on this podcast. I mean, if we have a chance to fight with the Avengers, I'm not doing it in my jeans. I'm totally going to go get one of my like cosplays and be like, all right, I'm ready.
You know it. So again, relatable. So maybe Hawkeye is just the most relatable of all the stories so far that we can all get down with. Right. All right. So that was the second one, LARPing. 3 and 4. What did we think about 3 and 4?
I was going to say we also got our first shot of Echo, Maya Lopez, in that last episode, in episode 2. So, which was very exciting because we already knew she was coming. She ties in, of course, to her own show. She ties into Daredevil, who, spoiler, was in Spider-Man, and it was exciting just to see all of that. So episode 3 picks up with Maya's story. So we see her as a little girl. There's a reference to Shang-Chi in her childhood stuff. And then in the comics, her father works for Kingpin. Kingpin has her father killed. He, of course, doesn't take the blame for that. He actually blames Daredevil. He trains Maya to be this like super killer assassin. She's deaf as well in the comics as well as in the show. And she confronts Daredevil, and Daredevil's like, it wasn't me, it was Kingpin. He convinces her it was Kingpin. And then, of course, she turns on Kingpin. So that's her little like backstory. Now, this was where everybody started going, are we going to actually get Kingpin? Because she's in this, what is it, like the dojo. She's doing a karate lesson as a little girl. And we see this big like dude who takes up 99% of the frame, but you don't see his face. You just see that he's wearing white, which is Kingpin's like signature, suit color. And this big old like meaty hand like touches her cheek, like, I'm so proud of you kind of thing. And, everybody lost it. 'Cause they're like, oh, it's Kingpin. It has to be Kingpin. And I was like, it has to be. But man, after WandaVision, I always get excited. And then I'm like, wait, no, I'm not going to get excited.
Yeah.
They did me dirty.
Mm-hmm.
They did me dirty. But there were so many references to him, right? Fat Man Auto Repair. He's constantly referred to as the big guy. It's like, come on, it's got to be him. Also, Vincent D'Onofrio was totally trolling fans on Twitter with like super like deep dive references to his character in his tweets, and I was like, oh, you're something, sir.
Now I have a question. So Kingpin is only in Daredevil. In other words, if you want to know why people are so like hyped up over Kingpin and you're not going to go read comics, you need to go watch Daredevil.
You should definitely watch Daredevil. He's also in Spider-Verse. It's not obviously the same person.
Oh, right.
But if you want to just get more like character knowledge,
yeah,
Spider-Verse is a good spot too, because he obviously deals with Spider-Man in the comics as well. But yeah, no, it's Vincent D'Onofrio is playing him in this show, and that's who also plays him in Daredevil.
He's really good in Daredevil.
Yeah, and he's slightly, I will say, this MCU version, because Daredevil's technically not also canon anymore, but this MCU version of Kingpin is actually more comic accurate. So that's very exciting. But yeah, no, he's phenomenal in both. So totally watch Daredevil.
Okay. And it was episode 3 that we got the whole car chase scene and all the cool arrows, right?
Yes. So we see, the 1970s Dodge Challenger. That's from the comics. That's another thing I loved about this particular show. If you're interested in reading the comics, go get the complete series by Matt Fraction. Because the visuals in the show, it was like pulled right out of the panels of coloring, everything. The shot in the car. It was so cool. I love the tracksuit bros. I think they're hilarious.
Oh my gosh, the Truster Bros, they are hilarious.
When the one dude is asking about like, girlfriend advice and how that like came back around in the finale, I was dying. It was like, oh, like look, while I have you here, I just want to like really thank you. Like we talked it out, my girlfriend and I. And I was like, oh my God, this is so hilarious.
Well, every time they would say bro, I was laughing. I mean, just every time. And Yeah. So in the comics, are they, I mean, is Tracksuit Mafia, is that the comic book accurate thing?
Yes.
Or was that, okay.
Yes.
Because at first when they said that, I was laughing because I just thought it was like a one-off joke. And then it continued on. And so I was like, okay, so this is probably like an actual official thing.
Yeah, it's Tracksuit Mafia or Tracksuit Draculas. And yes, and they do say bro a lot. So I think that's where the whole like tracksuit bro. Trust a bro.
Trust a bro. Yeah.
Trust a bro. Oh my God, it's hilarious. There's, of course, an emotional scene where Hawkeye tells Maya that he knows Ronan is dead because Black Widow killed him. And I'm like, oh, Avengers Endgame, tear. As you mentioned, his hearing aid gets knocked out and crashed. And yes, this is where we start to see some trick arrows. And Kate's like, you should have labeled them. Like, what is going on? The Pym-Tech arrow is probably my favorite. He shoots that, and this arrow becomes giant. It just like impales the Trust a Bro truck. I was like, oh my God, yes. And then he has a USB arrow, which that was my husband's favorite joke, because then she mentions like needing a dongle arrow, and I was like, you're such a nerd. Kazi is warning Maya not to go after Hawkeye or Ronan because, you know, the uncle's going to get mad. Uncle is another reference to Kingpin. And I love the suit Kate is drawing for Clint. Like, that's totally his comic book suit, which looks ridiculous because don't they all, right? But I love how each show has kind of brought back those original looks. So in Loki, it was old man King Loki was wearing it. You know, Wanda, that was Halloween. I was like, oh my God, please continue to work these into the show. They're hilarious. And then it ends with Jack using the Ronin sword and holding Clint, you know, kind of at bay because they've broken into her mom's house to try to figure out what's going on the tracksuit and Jack. And they learn about this, you know, what is it? Shadow Company? What do they call those? Shadow. I feel like it's
Shell Company.
Shell. There you go. I was like, it starts with an S. S-H. Yeah. So yeah, the Shell Company, Sloan Limited. And then we end on the sword shot.
So I knew Jack was going to be something different than he was. And I was pleasantly surprised that in the end,
delighted,
you know, he was just this, you know, he just likes swords, man. And he's fine. Like there's no nefarious, at least thus far, there's nothing nefarious or whatever about Jack. I like that. I called it early on. I was like, the mom's bad. Like, she did something.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
You know, so I was pretty sure she was involved with that guy who died, who, again, like, that's never brought up again until she gets arrested. But yeah, Jack was the most pleasant little surprise out of all of this. Oh my gosh. Can we also talk about the kid? The kid actor, he's like, what is he? Is he Jack's nephew?
Armand, the like sixth or something.
Yeah. Look, I get really picky with kid actors. Sometimes they just don't do it for me. This kid had me howling, and I was like, all right, I see you. Like, we need to see more of this. But I loved him in Armand's Jack's interactions, because Jack was such a child about it all. It was funny. What was that? Was that in the finale? I think that was in the finale.
that was the final episode with the wine collection.
Yes, it was hilarious.
Yeah. Also, we haven't touched on it, but the dog, I love Lucky the pizza dog, and I'm here for the MCU pet supremacy that has to be coming. If they can make an animated Warner Brothers Super Pets, we can have an MCU Super Pets. I'm just saying.
Look, I don't need all that. I love dogs and I love pets, but I don't need all that. I appreciated it, and I appreciated like the reality of it all. That like twice, Clint and Kate would like be reminded, oh, we got to go walk the dog. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was continually brought up, the fact that this dog actually needs our attention and we can't just ignore it. And so I again, the reality based, I guess I like when Marvel gets weird, but I also was kind of needing some grounded Marvel in my life. And the show gave it to me. So the dog is adorable though. Really cute. And eating all the pizza. I'm not sure what that's about because my dog would not eat that. And my dog eats anything, but
my
he
dog
would not
loves
eat pizza.
My
No,
dog
not mine.
loves. Like it's like her favorite meal.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, no, I loved in the comic. Actually, the dog plays a bigger role. You see the dog more. There's actually a whole episode of the comics or whatever issue of the comics that it's from the dog's point of view, which I thought I wanted to see. Like even in a post credit of this one, I wanted to see like point of view from the dog. But maybe we'll get it in season 2.
Yeah. All right. Well, if there's a season 2, they better give us one. Okay, what are we up to? That was 4. Yep. So now we're in 5 and 6.
No, we're on 4.
We're on 4. Okay.
So yeah, so in 4, we have the conversation between Eleanor and Clint where she's like, Kate's just a kid and you shouldn't get her involved. Clint texts Laura asking her to run Sloan LTD. And Eleanor leaves a message to someone asking for them to call her immediately. So we don't know who that is. Like, who is she calling? Obviously, she's been suspicious since the beginning, and she continues to be suspicious. Laura finds out that Sloan LTD is actually a tracksuit mafia front, and their boss is Jack. Interesting. Laura also asked Clint about the Rolex, that watch that we saw in episode 1. Clint thought it was destroyed years ago, but Laura isn't convinced. This was obviously another nod. We were like, is she going to actually be revealed to be Mockingbird? And as we said, she was. Clint wants to talk to Jack. That Thanos was right mug popped up. There was also a reference in the first episode. People out there think Thanos was right. And as we know from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there are people who would probably agree that Thanos should have just left. The Avengers should have just left the destruction caused by Thanos.
Look, not to, bring reality into all of this, but right now I'm kind of leaning towards Thanos being right because listen, I am so tired of how this whole pandemic thing is playing out. And maybe Thanos was right. Maybe we would have been better off with half of us already gone because it's just getting ridiculous.
Bless it.
Off my soapbox. But okay, let's keep going.
One of the fun things that happened in this episode is Clint shows Kate what he can do with a quarter. So the coin flicking, that's also from the comics. She's practicing. It reminded me a lot of when Scott Lang was in house arrest and had to do the magic tricks, which then rubbed off on Agent Jimmy Woo, and he totally
our adorable Agent
did
Woo
some magic in WandaVision. So I love it. We love to see that kind of stuff. Kate figures out that Clint is Ronan. So up until now, no one's known, other than Laura, who Ronan is. I guess I'm Nat, because she knew everything. But those were the only 2 people that knew that Hawkeye and Ronan were the same person. So now Kate has figured it out. They go visit the LARPers. Hey, LARPers, to get their trick arrows back. Because they're in like a compound, storage area with the police. Clint confronts Kazi saying like, y'all better back off. It's going to get ugly. You need to stop. There's actually a Star Wars. So everybody knows there's a Star Wars Christmas album, right? And if you don't, there's a Star Wars Christmas album. Yes, it's as ridiculous as it sounds. However, the LARPers, as you know, are huge nerds. And you can hear a song that features C-3PO playing in the scene where he is at Grills' house.
Oh, that's funny.
And I was like, wow, deep dive nerve moment there. But it made me laugh. He does tell her that the watch belongs to someone he worked with who is no longer in the game. So there we go. There's another little hint. Mm-hmm. And we get Yelena. Yelena enters the scene on the rooftop. You've got Maya attacking Kate while Clint's fighting Yelena. And there's even a nod to Spider-Verse here because Haley Steinfeld voices Gwen Stacy in Spider-Verse. And Clint figures out that it's a Black Widow assassin that's after him because she's got the stingers. And obviously, having been around Nat for so many years, he knows what a Black Widow assassin moves and fights like. And we got our first shot at Yelena, and everybody was like, oh my God, Yelena, love her.
Which we all knew. That was, again,
as soon as I saw the
worst kept secrets, but yes.
Yeah. Seriously, really was.
But it was still exciting because you knew we were going to get some really good comedic lines.
Yeah. It was funny because every time they would interview Jeremy Renner and they would ask about Florence Pugh, he'd be like, who? Yelena, who? Oh, you mean that person in Black Widow? Oh, yeah, no, I don't know her. You know, he did a better job than some others keeping secrets about.
I don't know. Look, you have to give Andrew Garfield. I think he's still denying that he is in that movie. So you need to give him his Oscar.
I'm not saying for him. I'm saying the other ones that were like, yeah, I'm in Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm just going to put this out here. Just again, you guys are getting all kinds of hot takes from me. But if Andrew Garfield is not nominated and doesn't win for Tick, Tick, Boom, I am going to just have to cancel the Oscars. I'm sorry, but he was
This is Patty's supervillain origin story.
This is exactly how it. Exactly. This is. I will boycott all award ceremonies from here on out if Andrew does not get recognized for the work he has done. He's just amazing. Anywho, okay. I love him.
Okay, so episode 5.
This was the best episode. I'm like clapping my hands like that Snow White gif where she's like, that's me. This was so much fun and it was so great. And again, this is all because of Florence Pugh. I mean, her and Haley's combination and their conversations and their chemistry and this discussion, this should be the future. This should be the buddy up. I mean, they're just as good to me as Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as far as their like, you know, back and forthing together. Mm-hmm. Like these two were so great. And then I read that a lot of that was somewhat improvised and somewhat is just because they connected so well. Some of the things that like Florence would throw out, Haley was able to just pick up and run with it. And it just worked. The macaroni scene will forever live in Marvel infamy. It was the best.
We love to see it. This one also is like really sad, at least in the beginning, because they start out with, you can overhear the dialogue from Black Widow. So if you haven't watched Black Widow, Marvel told you to watch Black Widow. You should have watched Black Widow. That's my soapbox moment for this. So we hear them talking about it. It's 2018. Yelena has broken into another widow's house to cure her with the antidote. They discuss, helping people, finally being reunited with her sister. She goes to the bathroom and she's dusted. Instantly, it's 5 years later. The graphics here, I love how the shows are exploring more about the snap and what it felt like for the people that came back. Mm-hmm. We got it in WandaVision with Monica waking up in the hospital where her mother had since died since she'd been snapped away, which, God, that was awful. And then you've got this where Yelena comes out thinking it's still 2018 and it's not. And she finds out that her sister's dead. And it was just, it was heartbreaking. Her face, I was like, oh my God, Marvel, stop.
Yeah, it was really well done how just in that exact same, it's a moment later, and that I think like sinks in and kind of hits everybody with just how quickly those people's lives had to be adjusted and accounted for. The ones that obviously were left behind dealt with one level of trauma. And then here we are with the other people who she was like, I was just in the bathroom for like 10 seconds. Like, what are you talking about? What do you mean it's 5 years later?
Right.
So
and my sister's dead. Yeah.
And exactly. And it was really, again, well done. They thought through that moment and what it would be like and then gave it to us, which is, I think one of those things that a lot of us had questions about and wondered what it was like and, everything. And, so I appreciated that moment. It was a very important moment.
Yeah, I agree. So, and then we're in the present day. Clint has told Kate that their partnership is over. He's trying to keep her safe, right? Because to him, she's like 5 years old and he doesn't want to see her get hurt. She's really upset, but she does tell her mother that they discovered Jack as the CEO of that shell company, and Eleanor promises she'll look into it. Kazi tells Maya, let's stop doing this, but okay, cool. We'll kill Ronan, but we really need to stop because Uncle will want us to stop. So there's Uncle's presence looming over, again, this whole thing. Who is that guy? Kate returns to her apartment and Yelena is waiting for her, and they have a great conversation over a nice dinner of boxed mac and cheese. I just want to know, did she use milk half and half when she mixed it together? We all have our little ways of making boxed mac and cheese taste better. But yeah, no, that whole interaction, which leads into the finale when the two of them are together and the whole "stop making me like you." Oh God, I love them together.
Yeah, no, they were great. And again, just brilliant casting all around. As always, everything in Marvel, the casting directors are the unsung heroes because
yes, give them all the laurels.
Honestly, none of this, we wouldn't be constantly talking about this fandom in the MCU if it wasn't for these casting choices that they continue to knock out of the park. And so we appreciate it. And honestly, how good is Florence Pugh? How good is she in everything? But she really is just absolutely amazing. But yes, I'm with you. I'm team, I will never not stop wanting more of Kate and Yelena together. So let's make that happen.
Yes, please. Here's a little nod to Spider-Man in this scene because Yelena wants to go do things, right? She's in New York City for the first time. And after she kills Clint, she needs to sightsee, clearly, as one does, right? She wants to see the Empire State Building, the new and improved Statue of Liberty, which is the same one we see in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Which, the funny thing is, this episode came out, a week before Spider-Man came out, maybe 2 weeks before. I think it's only a week before Spider-Man came out. And I clocked her comment about the new and improved Statue of Liberty. I really did. And in my head, I still feel like 25 years ago was just yesterday myself, snap. But I remember going to the Statue of Liberty before it underwent this big not reconstruction, but update, cleaning, whatever. So I went, and I was probably not one of the last people, but I was definitely in the last realm of tourists at the time who were able to go all the way up to the top and go through the crown. And I don't believe you can do that anymore, at least for a period of time. I know it was not allowed specifically after 9/11, for a long period of time. I don't know how much. I'm not up to date on my New York tourism information, but I thought that was no longer available. You can only go up to a certain level now, and then they turn you around and they make you go back down. But I actually got to go up into the crown. So when I heard that was what I clicked to, is I was just well, maybe if she's never been to New York before, and I don't know, maybe she's harking back to early 2000s. I didn't know what that meant. So, but I did hear it. And then when I saw the new and improved Statue of Liberty in Spider-Man, I howled. Because I was oh, I see what they're doing. And here's the thing is I really, again, the synergy and what they do between connecting things, they did a lot to connect these two shows without straight up connecting these two shows, right? We didn't get the obvious of a Spider-Man swinging through while they're having their fight at Rockefeller Center, right? But both images were portrayed in the movie as well as, in this show. And the same thing with the comment that was just this innocuous comment. However, I jumped out of my seat and was Hawkeye during the movie because it clicked that that's what she was referring to. Also, I have to, appreciate that New York City is really leaning into how much the Avengers did for the world and also the city itself. And so, we have that plaque that Clint goes to that's, commemorating all the Avengers. And how Clint is being recognized out on the streets, which is probably blowing his mind because for 25 years he was purposely not recognizable. Like that was his job, was for people not to. But now he's getting like the Chinese food meal paid for himself, and the LARPers are like, you're Hawkeye. Everybody knows who Hawkeye is, and nobody knew who Hawkeye was up until this point. So I just found it all very interesting. But yes, she makes the comment about the Statue of Liberty. And then in Spider-Man, you see what that new and improved. Yeah. And, as much as I love me some Captain America, I gotta say, when that shield came down, I was okay with it. I don't want it on the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, see, I'm the opposite. I thought it was so cool. I was like, they need to do that again.
Yeah. I'm with you, Patty. I thought it was a little weird.
Yeah, it was a little weird. I mean, I think the shield was bigger than the statue. Like it was a little off-putting to me. So I was okay with it when it came crashing down. All right. So yes, they have this fabulous conversation just over this casual mac and cheese dinner. And, Yelena straight up says, I'm here to kill Clint Barton. That's what I'm here for.
And are you done with this mac and cheese? Because I'm going to put some hot sauce on it.
That's right. Got to put my sriracha on it.
She does reveal that she was hired by someone. Now, we know at the end of Black Widow, in the post-credit scene, Contessa shows up to give her a file on Clint and say, oh, would you like some revenge on the man who killed your sister? So clearly, Eleanor went through Contessa to hire Yelena to kill Clint. That just tells you that if you didn't already figure it out, Contessa's not a good person. Mm-hmm. And
do you think maybe that was the phone call that Eleanor made? Was to Contessa?
Yes, that was probably it. Because that's how Yelena shows up, right? If she was hired. Or Kingpin made the phone call to Contessa. Either way, Contessa was involved. And we all know she's a terrible person because, who else did she recruit? The worst person in the world, John Walker. Ew. Ugh, hate him. I still hate him. The character, not the actor. I hate him. Grills insists that Hawkeye shouldn't spend Christmas alone and offers him to stay on the couch. He also has the new suits, but Clint doesn't want to see them. That, as you mentioned, Patty, the LARPers made them new suits. Jack is taken into custody by police because Eleanor called the cops on him because he's running a shell company. Although he's like, I've never worked a day in my life. And again, Jack did come out as the surprise, likable character. Because even though he's stupid rich, stuff like that, you're like, oh, he's actually funny. Kind of like him.
He was so good.
He was just like, I've never worked a day in my life. I don't know what this means. There's the plaque that Patty mentioned that on this site in 2012, the Avengers first assembled. And I also was super excited to see Steve Rogers' name listed first. Just saying. Because it wasn't in alphabetical order. But Steve is the number one Avenger. Let's just be clear.
Well, he's the hometown boy.
He's also the first Avenger.
Yeah, that's right.
He's not Tony Stank.
Not Tony Stank.
Clint has a very emotional. He takes out his hearing aid or turns it off, and he has this very emotional conversation with, Natasha, as one does. You're grieving a loss. And you're kind of just talking to them as if they were next to you. And I guess this is where he felt really close to her in this city. So I was like, oh my God. Again, the way these shows are dealing with grief has just been so phenomenal. Way better than most TV shows deal with grief. Mm-hmm. So Kate is blowing up Clint's phone, trying to tell him about everything from Yelena to Jack, which also made me laugh when the mailbox was full. And she's like, oh, I'm trying to talk to you. Hawkeye sends a message arrow to Maya via the Tracksuit Bros saying that he wants her to meet Ronan back at the Big Guy Auto. Clint calls Laura, and again, Big Guy is mentioned. She tells him she understands more than anyone ever could because ding, 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 she used to be an agent, clearly. Mm-hmm. There's this fight between Ronan, Clint, and Maya at the Fat Man Auto Sales. It was I liked it. It was a great stunt sequence. He unmasked himself to prove that this is who he really is. And he warns her to stay away from him and his family. And he also tells her, look, we're both the same weapons. And he reveals that it was her boss, that he was tipped off by an informant who was sent by her boss because he wanted her father dead. Maya refuses to believe him, but clearly that seed is struck, right? And you're like, what? She was clearly curious. She goes to confront Kazi, who is literally the right-hand man, and wants to know why he wasn't at that meeting. Because, see, even though she didn't believe Clint in the moment, that makes you rethink about events. And it's like, well, you were missing. Where were you? And Kazi's like, I just never got the call. And I'm like, dude, that was like the worst lie on the planet. Come on. She clearly suspects him now, right? Because that was a terrible lie. When Kate goes to tell Clint about the woman in the mask, Clint knows Yelena, which is something I legit said to people on Twitter, because I was like, listen, people are like, how would they be best friends if he never knew about Yelena? I'm like, I guarantee you he knew about Yelena, just like Nat knew about his family. She was the only Avenger not surprised, other than Fury, about Clint's family. So this proves it. He knows who Yelena is. And then Kate gets a text from Yelena about the person who hired her to kill Clint. And that person was her mother. And not only that, Yelena sends a picture of Eleanor with Kingpin to the rollout of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. And I was like, oh my God, the best use of that song ever. It was so good. And it was also great to have that confirmation that the big guy was Kingpin and we weren't going to have another Mephisto situation.
Yes, right.
I was like, thank you for that. And yeah, then we roll into the finale, which, as we've talked about, was just really good.
All right. So, finale. We got the LARPers back. They're helping. There's a whole plan. Of course, it goes awry. We have the fight on the ice skating rink around the tree at Rockefeller Center. Kate takes down the tree and there's an owl. I mean, there was a lot going on with this finale. I will give it to them that they definitely packed a whole lot in there. But
I love the trick arrows, like all that, and that she labeled them,
and that she labeled them this time, so she knew what she was working with. Yeah. But what it comes down to, what was cool, we got some really great fight scenes. We definitely got the Yelena and Clint discussion. And what I took from this is that she paused a beat and she listened to him. And in my heart, it's because she knew, like, she makes the comment of, you got to spend so much time with her. Yeah. And that's when I think she paused and was like, what would Black Widow do? Like, this guy meant something to her. So at the very least, before I try to kill him, I should hear him out. And I took that as, again, a good humanizing moment, but then also, she wanted to know more about her sister, and she didn't get as much time together with her as I think she wanted to. And hi, that's my dog. Again, not editing, so that's my non-pizza dog. But I really appreciated.
So did he.
Yeah, he agrees. I did appreciate.
You're not talking about Pizza Dog enough. That's what
right. That's what it is. Yeah. He's chiming in to tell me that. Yeah. No, I definitely thought that they did a great job with that conversation. Is that she was so hot and bothered and was absolutely out to hurt him, but
it was a good moment of healing for both of them. I think.
Yes, he needed to talk it through with the only, and maybe he was walking around with that guilt, not just of what happened, but the guilt of that towards Yelena, because he knew she came back from the snap with no knowledge of any of this. So it was I liked it. I liked how that one, I was satisfied with how they wrapped it up and they made that one work.
I actually texted Ashley as I was watching it because there was a line in that finale that sent me over the edge. And like, I was crying, like legitimate. Oh my gosh, this is when Clint looks at Kate and says, give him hell, or let's give him hell, I think is what he said. Because it was a callback to Ultron, where Black Widow is about to get off the Quinjet on her motorcycle, and he says, 3, 2, 1, give him hell. And she like comes out of the Quinjet, and I was like, oh my God. Why?
He had some great lines in this one too. I love when he's like, when Jack comes out with the sword, and he's like, so he just got out of jail for being accused of murder with a sword. And he's wearing a sword. Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, Jack, literally, that was the perfect use of weird flex, because if there was textbook example of a weird flex, that was it. That was it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was cracking up when he was like, oh, this is what we've been waiting for, Jackie boy, or whatever. And he like starts fighting. And the LARPers are like, what about this guy? And she's like, well, he's on our side, but we should also probably try to get him out of here too. Oh my God. That whole sequence, I was like, I'm dying.
Yeah, no,
Oh my God,
it was definitely good.
He was cute.
Yeah, but why?
So it's actually based on a real story that was turned into a book about the owl and the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center.
Okay, see?
So it was just kind of like another Christmas
tie-in,
story.
whatever.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay,
cool.
Cool.
It's not Mephisto, okay? I know people are probably like, oh, who's the owl? Is it
We're
Mephisto?
from Harry Potter.
Look, I still don't know who Mephisto is, but everything from here on out, I'm going to be like, that's Mephisto, that's Mephisto, that's Mephisto. You know, and then whenever Mephisto does show up at some point, I'll be like, oh, well, that was disappointing. You're not what I expected you to be for 20,000 years. Anywho, yeah. So yeah, lots of good fights. Lots of healing moments. We also had Echo, and her moment. Talk about that a little bit.
So Echo has a very emotional moment as well. She confronts Kazi, and she wants him to leave with her so they can just go somewhere else and kind of have a new life. And he goes, I can't, you can, I can't, this is my life. He's never going to let me go. And they end up fighting because he's more terrified of Kingpin than he is of hurting Maya. But Maya's stronger than him. So she ends up killing Kazi, and she confronts Kingpin. Now, so for those who don't know, Kingpin is not a superhuman. He's not some sort of super-powered villain. He's just incredibly strong and incredibly durable. Like, he's a massive dude, right? So when Kate shoots him with an arrow earlier, and he just like knocks it aside, like, what is this? Like, stop. Like, she's like poking him or something. Like, he doesn't really care. Doesn't faze him. He gets hit by a car. He gets up. And like, yeah, he's limping a little bit from that, but he still is literally walking. Most of us would be like in the fetal position on the floor if we got hit by a car, if not dead. So when Maya confronts him, and, it's about him killing her father, he, of course, is like, oh, we're family, you and I, and like all this other stuff. And then it zooms out, and we don't see what happens, but we do hear a gunshot. And so if you're wondering why they brought Kingpin back just to kill him, did you see a body? He's likely not dead. It happens in the comics. She literally shoots him at point blank range in the comics. He becomes temporarily blind. And then again, he's healed because why? Because comics. Comic physics. They don't make sense.
It never does. It never does.
So he's fine.
Yeah.
He'll
even I was like, oh, that man ain't dead. It's cool.
No, there's literally no way he's dead. And Maya's getting her own show, Echo. So I'm sure we'll see him again. I'm sure we'll see Daredevil again in that show, because Daredevil and Echo have a thing. So,
like a romantic thing?
I think they do end up in a relationship at one point.
Interesting. Okay.
So, yeah. It'll be interesting, but he's not dead. So, there's that. Yeah. I loved all the different trick arrows that we got. We got another Pym arrow, but this arrow shrunk the truck instead of blowing it up. I love the line about, she's like, well, what about these guys? He's like, I don't know. I should probably ask Scott. I was like, oh, I'm dead. But the owl took the truck away as they're like screaming the inside. I was like, oh God.
Again, the owl. But okay. Yeah. Oh. So the fight wraps everything up from this perspective. Like all of the, the side fights and whatever get wrapped up, at least in my perspective. We've got Echo and Kingpin had their moment. Echo and Kazi had their moment. We had Clint and Yelena have their moment. Jack turns out to be an all right guy and definitely handy with the sword, which was helpful in all of this fight scenes. And Mom gets arrested and hauled off to jail.
Yep.
As she should be. I mean, sorry, Kate, but your mama did wrong. So that left us with Clint finally showing up at his house for Christmas with his family. He made it. He missed movie night. Had to do that with Kate instead. He missed, ugly sweater night, all that good stuff, but he made it. Now, the only thing I had in my head, just because, and maybe this is addressed in comics at some point, was I couldn't help but feel for Lila, that maybe she would feel like she was being replaced by Kate, or Kate was interloping on things, and not that Lila would be mad about it, except for the idea of like, I finally get my dad after all of these years, and she and her dad appear to be pretty tight. And then there's this interloper who's better than she is, and I don't know that she is, but she's the best archer in the world, right? Right. Appears to be, better than Lila at a lot of things or whatever. So I had this weird moment of father-daughter complications and whatever. And obviously that this is me going deep into whatever my own psyche. I don't know. We can talk about that in therapy, but definitely something like triggered in that scene. Am I the only one that had any concerns about the Barton kids when this extra person shows up for Christmas?
I mean, Lila's not, as far as I can know, as I remember, Lila's not a comic character.
Okay.
It's always been Kate that takes over.
Okay, that was my question. Okay, so that helps.
So
it was when we just one of those. What was that in Endgame where he's teaching her?
Yeah.
So and he even calls her like Hawkeye. He's like, "That's the way to go, Hawkeye."
So when he did that, everybody was like, "Oh, obviously, is she going to be like take the place of Kate Bishop?" But they ended up actually bringing in the real Kate Bishop. So I didn't think anything of it because I'm like, well, it was always supposed to be Kate anyway, not Lila. But
gotcha. Okay. Well,
I don't know. Maybe Lila would be excited to have another girl in the house, Well,
I mean, they
sister,
could, they could totally be, yes, it could go either way. Lila might be a better person than me and not be looking at her as competition, but be like, oh, it's the big sister I never had, and kind of thing. So we'll see. Oh, wait a minute. Stop. I'm sorry, y'all. I made the mistake. I pulled up Twitter.
Oh boy.
This has to be.
Oh,
is
no.
this photoshopped? Yes,
Probably.
It's photoshopped. Never mind. I won't get excited. It's photoshopped. Somebody photoshopped a picture of Tom Holland, Zendaya, and Zendaya's dog all wearing ugly Christmas sweaters. And I was just about to die laughing, but it's
because if you don't know, Patty's obsessed with Tom Daya.
If you missed the last episode, I'm very obsessed with Tom Daya. But yeah, no, it's clearly photoshopped because when you zoom in, you can see like the mistakes that were made. But at first I was like, oh my gosh, that's interesting. I can't say that I was really excited to see it. I was just more shocked to see it. All right. Sorry, putting the phone down. Anywho, so yes, so now they're back, and that's when he's like, oh, by the way, here's your Christmas present, and he hands over the watch. Now, is there any significance to the watch other than it just being her old watch? Like, is it a special watch? Does it do cool things? Does it have a trick arrows hidden inside the watch that shoot out. Like, what's up with the watch? Why do we care about this watch? Other than it was just a method of bringing Laura's backstory to the forefront.
I think that's really all it was. I don't see, it's not like a Tony Stark, nanotech Wakanda level watch. It looks like it's just a regular Rolex.
Okay.
So I think it was merely just to bring around that story and confirm that Laura was in fact Agent 19 Mockingbird at one point, and that she no longer is. And I don't know if we'll get anything of that, because like Clint's passing down the Hawkeye title, Sam has picked up the Captain America title. Titles can change hands. I don't know if that means that we're going to get another Mockingbird, and Laura will be the one to train that one to bring them in, or if it's just a fun nod to kind of be like, yes, Laura, like in the comics, Clint's wife is an agent, she's a superhero, and then that's where they're going to leave it. So,
well, it's also kind of nice, though, for those of us that live in reality world. It gives an explanation for why Laura was so cool about everything,
because we're not cool about it.
At some point you would be annoyed and just be like, get your booty home or quit promising that you're coming home. Your choice. Those are the two options. Pick one, right? So yes, this might have also been that mechanism to kind of explain why she's so cool. But I'd be Linda Cardellini. I mean, who wouldn't be down to seeing her like take on a more active role again in some way, shape, or form? I love her. So I'd be down with it, but we'll see what Marvel has up its sleeves, because we don't know yet.
Loved it.
All right. So we've all agreed this is something we'll revisit. This is something we enjoyed enough to, want to watch again in the future. And, it left open just enough doorways for growth and more spider webbing out of things to come. Like, obviously, we have the Echo series that has been announced, so we know that that's coming.
It'll tie in with this.
It's definitely going to tie in. I mean, it's definitely going to, like, I know, but I assume it will tie in with this. I assume Kingpin will be back. I am very curious, though, because they made a point of Charlie Cox and Daredevil showing up in Spider-Man. And then, as you've pointed out, there's a connection to him with Kingpin, and there's a connection to him with Maya in the comics. Like, Feige doesn't say things without purpose. And I said this from the beginning when that interview came out, and he said, if Daredevil makes an appearance in the MCU, it will absolutely be, a Charlie Cox Daredevil, which is what happened a week later when Spider-Man came out. But it also makes me wonder if he's also prepping us to see more of him. Like, is he going to show up in the Echo series, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's rumors now that he's going to be there. I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up in She-Hulk. I mean, she is a lawyer.
Right. That's
He's
right.
a lawyer. Obviously, he's got connections to Spider-Man at this point. So, yeah, and people love Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock. And that bit of a tease of him catching the brick in No Way Home, which I love. It's because I'm a really good lawyer. That was such a great tease to be like, I cannot wait to see him in action on both the TV screen, but also eventually also in a big screen situation.
Yeah.
It's going to be
a lot
phenomenal. I can't wait.
A lot of good stuff that's coming out. So if you hadn't had a chance yet to see Spider-Man, sorry, we just spoiled a lot of stuff for you possibly, but go see it anyway.
Dude, it's really been out for like 2 weeks now, which is forever in nerdom, so.
That's right.
That's on you then.
And it's so worth it. Even if you think you know everything that's going to happen, it's still the acting and the moments that it happens in.
Wonderful.
The payoff is there, even if you knew in advance that it was coming, because I knew in advance all of it was coming because that's who I am. I read all the spoilers, and I still was blown away, and just, I love it so much. Anywho, so yeah, that's definitely something to go check out. We have a lot to look forward to in 2022 with the Marvel series. They're going to continue sending some really good stuff our way. What movies do we have Marvel-wise that are supposed to come out?
Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
I'm so excited.
That one's going to be a biggie. Which is, I was probably one of the few people who really dug Doctor Strange from the get-go. Like, I thought he was just such a fascinating character. So when his movie came out, I was all in. I liked that movie. So the more and more we've seen of him, I think he's growing on people. So I can't wait to see what happens in this, in this next version of him. And then we have, God, why am I drawing blanks?
Like
the
Love and
Marvels.
Thunder. The problem is that we've gotten a lot of release dates and then things have shifted.
They've changed everything. That's exactly what that's why I'm like having a hard. Anyway, I'll pull it up somewhere and I'll remember at some point and put it in show notes if I can. But yeah, there's a lot coming out from movie perspective, and then there's a couple of series that are supposed to be coming out next year too, right? She-Hulk,
Moon
Miss
Knight,
Marvel, and Moon Knight.
Secret
those
Invasion,
our next three?
I think might be next year too.
Mm-hmm. Again, things do keep getting shifted, but we'll just have to see what happens. But a lot of fun stuff out there. And, anything cool happening, I will probably, talk these girls into coming back on the podcast and popping in from time to time, because it is no fun to fangirl anything Marvel alone. So definitely keep paying attention to what is going on out there in the MCU. And if you want to come talk to us about it, you can find all three of us. We hang out in the Marvel Moms Facebook group. You don't have to be a mom to join. Feel free to come pop over there and hang out with us if you also like to nerd out about a little bit of Marvel. And we will be back with the next whatever big thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about Book of Boba Fett. We'll have to see how we all feel rolling into the new year. As far as the main issue right now is the reason why this particular podcast hasn't been as regular is just time. Like, who has time? I mean, we have time to talk about it, but it's the time to edit it, the time to schedule all three of us together or, anyway. So I will just admit to you guys, I know it has not been very consistent this year. I cannot and will not promise that that's going to change into 2022. However, please feel free to reach out. And if you have something that you want us to talk about, let me know, because that's actually how we ended up talking about Hawkeye. I think all of us were just, we were okay with letting it go. And it's not because we didn't like Hawkeye, just timing, right? But I actually had Jen. Hi, Jen. How are you doing? Jen reached out and she was just like, I need you ladies to talk about some Hawkeye for me. It's a little late. I know you've already seen it all, Jen, but I hope that you joined us and got a little bit of your Hawkeye nerdum on. All right. Again, no fun to fangirl alone. Come join us and we will talk to you guys real soon. Bye, y'all.
Happy New Year, guys.
Bye.